Anyone do anything special over the week? Go anywhere far? Friends, family? What was that?
We went to
Wonderland
for the rides.
Wonderland, yeah. Did you try that new drive that goes like this? This 90 degree?
No, I didn't. I don't like this.
You did that one? Was it good? Okay. You did? Oh wow, that's amazing. I want to try that ride. Yukon. Okay, that's okay. Cool. Good to know. I used to work there. That was my first job. I was the balloon carrier. I held all the balloons, but it was very harassing because people behind you would like smack the balloons and say things to you. Okay, we are going to play Kahoot, but not at the very beginning. I'm going to save that till a little bit later, just for a change. But you can log in if you want. Couple of announcements. Now, the first announcement is this. So registrar gave me 2 classrooms from now on. So we'll start in this classroom every time, but then after the class break, we'll move to K326, and that's where you'll have power stations. Okay. That's the first announcement. The second announcement, intro to assignment number 3. And I showed you this already previously. So I've revealed under assignments in Blackboard, assignment number 3, which looks like this slide puzzle. I've already played this clip before, but let me just show you again. Now keep in mind, this clip includes all the bonus features that I'm looking for, which you don't have to do, okay? And so I've lightened, before when I said this was my favorite assignment when I was in Seneca, and I said this is more than 10% assignment, it's like 20-25%. So what I did was I looked at my criteria and I lightened the level of difficulty. So all you have to do is click a piece and it'll either move down in this example or stay still. So I'm not looking for, if you click 8, both will go down. I'm not looking for, if you assemble it all back together in order, it gives you a message saying you won. I'm not looking for that. I'm not looking for, initially it's jumbled up. You can just initially display this and then just click away. So those are 3 major things that I have removed, but I've included it as a bonus here, if you wish to challenge yourself. Okay, so let's just take a look briefly what I'm looking for in my criteria. Let's see here. Let me just download this, because there is one thing I'd like for you to try to do, although I'm not. Well, see, I'm debating about that. Well, okay, no, I want you to do it. I think I want to challenge you to do it. So let me just save this under on my desktop. Extract here. It's going to be due July 15. So what's today? Today is July 2. July 15 is there. So 2 weeks, yeah. Yeah.
So only one number at a time will move.
I'm only asking for, if I click on, for example, if I click on 15, it'll move right. If I click on 12, it'll move down. If I click on 11 or any other number, it'll stay still. That's all I'm looking for.
Only 12 you move, the others will still.
Because this is a space, right? This is a space, right? So pretend that's an empty spot, which.
When we move 12, there will be a right space for 11.
Say that again.
When we move 12.
Yes, if you move 12, yes.
There will be a space to move right for 11.
There is no space to move right for 12 at this point, because.
No, after moving 12.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So after I move 12. Yes.
11
correct.
So 11 will move.
No. There'll be a space where 12 originally was. So if I move 12 down, 12 will go here, and then there's an empty spot here now.
Yes.
And now if I move 11.
11 or 8 can move.
Correct. That's what you're saying. Yes. So if I move 8, then that will go down because this is now an empty spot. Or if I move 11, it'll move right because that's now an empty spot. Yes. That's what you're saying. Sorry. This is the challenge. Hold on, where am
All mixed up.
No. So this is what I'm saying is that before I did want you to mix it up and show that initially, but I have removed that level of difficulty. So all you have to do is just show the ordered puzzle. Okay? If you want to, that'll be bonus because that is a challenge. Let me see. I wanted to show you what I wanted you to do, which was, hold on. Okay, so for assignment number 3, I've given you this for the HTML, right? So these are all your puzzle pieces. But here is what I want you to do. I've given you this JavaScript, and you cannot deviate from this. So I did say in the Blackboard that you could possibly get 0 if you violate my rules, which are you can't include other things like jQuery or React. So you'll be awarded 0 if other libraries are included. And this one here, 0 if you aren't using my provided template. So basically, this is the challenge. I want all of your code to stay within my provided const puzzle object. So this is what I mean by that. Here is my const puzzle object. It's one huge object composed of different property and values, property and functions, right? Which means eventually you're going to have to use the word this to make this happen. Okay? So keep this structure, and everything you write will be inside this structure. So you'll have to, for example, you'll have to fill in the slide function. You can, if you want, call other functions that you create on the fly. So if you want to create a function on the fly, just put a comma here, my function equals, and then just write your new function kind of thing. And then you can call it from within here, say this dot my function kind of thing. You could do that. So that is what I wanted to challenge you to do. It's basically a lot like Java when you're doing object-oriented programming, right? You're now working with one thing, and these are sort of like members, whether it's public or private members, and then you have methods inside your Java, and it's basically now looks like object-oriented programming, right? So I wanted you to try to do this challenge, because so far all you've been handing me in is what's called imperative code, which is you're just writing your functions and things all over the place. But this style of code is called declarative coding, which is you say stuff like this dot display and it'll do it, kind of thing. So I wanted you to try that. Okay. So that's assignment number 3. Is EC John here? John here? No. Okay. I just wanted to verify one thing. What is the difference between, and this is based on the midterm, what is the difference between, I had a function and I returned hi. What is the difference between this function this function? And so if I run the first one, get that. If I run the second one, difference is in the return, you're actually passing a value so that if I had said in this line, var a equals my func, then this hi would be now inside the variable called a. Whereas if I said here var a equals myfunc2, a would have nothing, it would be undefined because I'm not returning anything, even though I see something in the console. But don't be confused. Okay. Okay, so let me see here. YouTube Live, yes. Okay, so let's go into today's stuff. Any questions or comments or stuff? Okay, so we're going to open up lesson files for this one. So go ahead and open this up, and let's save it on our desktop somewhere. Comp 1073, and we're going to work on stuff you already know, which is objects. But I'm going to beef it up so you're not so bored. Here is, I don't want that, and let's just grab all that. Okay, so let's open that up in our Visual Studio Code folder. I'm going to start with the index.html. So go ahead and open that up. Magnify that. Index. All right, there we go. So here is our web page. And we're just going to start with step one. And everything in this is stuff you already know. It's not a big deal. But let me see if I can beef it up along here. So creating an object, stuff that you already know. Let me just grab my things here. Okay, so under step one, if I wanted to create an object called person, now I could say const person equals empty object. This is one way of creating an object. There are other ways that I'll show you in a second, but this is the most typical way where you just say the variable name equals an empty set of squiggly brackets there. But let's create some properties. So we'll say name equals Bob. Okay. Say age is 32. Let's say, so notice the first one I'm using a string, the second one I'm using a number. Here I'm going to use an array. I'll just say something like, I don't know. So this is typically how you would create an object. And let me ask someone here. Okay, let me run this. If I were to open up the console, if I were to say person right now, I have access to that. So it gives me the whole object. So obviously, let's see, what's your name again? In the back, what's your name again? Yeah, you. What's your name again? Ramnik. Okay, Ramnik. How would I just get, for example, this 32 to 32? What would I say in the console? And the thing is, because we're working with objects, we have to say person dot something to access it. Right. So that's creating an object. Looks like, what does it say? Yeah. Anyways, adding data items to the above object. Okay, this is what I wanted to say, and this is new in ES6. So let's say I had a previous string up here, up top, called, I don't know, one's name equals Bob already. Okay, if this is new in ES6, and when I say ES6, by the way, that means this is new as of 2015. Every single year, the JavaScript language changes a little bit. So as of 2015 or ES6 or ES 2015, all the same thing, you can now do this. Previously, before that, if I wanted to include this variable and it's attached to this, then I'd have to say name : name. as of ES6, this is new, you can now just do this. So let's refresh. If I say person.name, debug. Okay, let me go back to Remnik. I'm going to try something else. You can have also nested objects. If I say job here, I could have object as well, a nested object. Maybe the job title. Okay, I'll put mine. This is my job title here at Georgian, and location will be Georgian College. So Remnik, here's my object. How do I access this? Okay, in the console. Yeah. If I access this and only this, what would I have to type here? Again? Yes. If I do this right now, if I press enter, watch what happens. It gives me the object, but I don't want the object. I want that library technician string. So what's next? By the way, there is another way to access objects, not through the dot notation. You can also use array in notation, so using the square brackets. So watch this. So if I said person, and instead of saying age, which gives me watch 32, I can say this person, and then the string age 32. Question: why would that notation, array notation, be beneficial to you? In what situation? What use case? What was that? Yeah, exactly. So if I had a variable like let my variable equals age, right? I can now say person my variable. Give me that. This is now changeable. Second use case why this is useful, and it's this. Let's say, let's just grab. I can't think of anything right now. Let me just say job. I'll just say job title here, whatever. Notice I can actually put a space as a key in an object as long as I have quotations. But the problem is, how in the world would I be able to access this using dot notations? I can't say person dot job space title because that space would ruin it, right? Let's try it. So refresh. Can't say person dot job space title. That doesn't make sense, right? Person dot quote. That doesn't make sense. So what's the answer? Yeah, so then I'd say job title in strings. There. That's step 2. Add a simple function. Okay, so let's add in an object. You can also add functions. So let's add a function called greeting here. And I'm going to show you another new ES6. So in the past, in the olden days, you could say this: greeting colon function parentheses, and then we'll just say console log. Okay. So here's my object. What do you think? Let me pick on someone else. What's your name? Yeah, you. Name? Yes. What was it? Sorry? Okay. So Gagan Deep. You just go by Gagan. Got it. I want you to tell me how I would get this console high to run in the console. Like, what would I type in here? So let me refresh this. Here's my greeting. So this will give me the console high in here. But how do I run it? Gagan Deep. How would I run it? I don't know. So everything in here, I'd have to access through person dot something. Okay, so person dot something. So if this function of console log is under greeting, what would I have to say after the dot? Give me a word that if the console log is here, this is the value, and this is the key, and I can only access values by saying person dot interest, for example. If I want to get this array, I would say person dot interest to get this array. If I want to get this function, whatever's in here, which currently is the console high, if I want that to run, and that's a function, what do I say after the dot? Person dot. Yeah. Anything else? Because if I say person dot greeting right now, it just gives me the function. I'm not running the function. How do I run that function? Remember? Anyone? Yeah, so you need this. You need the parentheses to run, right? In JavaScript, you always need the round brackets to run the function. What else did I want to say? Step 3, add a simple function. Yes, I did that. Oh yeah, so here is the new thing. Just like I told you before up here, where that's a shortcut for ESX, as of ESX, this is something new. You no longer have to say greeting colon function. All you have to do is this. Let's test it out. Refresh. Again, more and more looking like Java. Okay. In terms of syntax. Next thing I want to show. So you know what? Oh yeah. So before, when I said to you, you know, const array equals sum array, 1, 2, 3, right? And if I were to console log that array, console log array, what's really happening is, oh no, I didn't want that. What's really happening is it's saying array.toString. So it's putting commas in between each element. That's for an array. What do you think if I were to say person.toString? What do you think that'll say? String. So here's the result. Object, object. So the moral of the story is, if you ever try to print an object onto the screen, like let's say you said text content up here equals an object person, it'll just say object, object. It won't give you the details. Okay, so that should, if you ever see that in your code and it's a bug, now you know, okay, it's calling the toString on an object, but I forgot to actually specify, you know, person.age or something like that. Okay. What else did I want to say? Yeah. Actually, I can test that right now because I have it. Oh yeah, ID of output right there. So, and I actually said output here. Yeah. So let's try this. So if I said output dot text content equals, I just to test it out. There it is. Hi, right? But if I now say object person, object. So if you ever see that, that's a bug. Okay, check it out. I have my person object. If I ever need an array of just the keys, I could say this, object.keys, and then put in, now I have an array of all the left-hand side stuff. If I ever want an array of just the right side stuff, I can say object.values. There it is. If I ever need an array of both, I can say this. Of that more in detail, and there you go, an array of arrays. Okay, so you might be asking, why is that useful? Oftentimes, you'll actually need to convert back from an array to object in certain use cases. So just keep this in your back pocket in case you need to. Question, yeah, Suk. Yeah, great question. So we obviously, if we have an array like I had before with the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 still up there. Oh, I know. I have an array in my object here. So I have interests. Right. So I could obviously say person.interests and then have some kind of loop like for each that console log that. There it is. The question Suk asks is, can you loop through an object? The answer is no. So if I said like person dot for each x. So one way to go about that is by using maybe object keys, right? Which gives me an array. So now if I assign an array like var my array equals object keys person, now I have this to work with, which then I can say dot for each. Maybe that's one way of doing it. Yeah, great question. That's one use case why you would probably want to iterate, if you should decide to iterate on an object. I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, did that. Object contained another object, did that too. We're just fine. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, sure. Let's try that. So again, variation on the theme. Let me pick on another person. If I want maybe this one, Georgian College outputted, but I don't want dot notation, I only want array notation, how would I do it? Well, Shaista. I want the array, the square bracket notation, not the dot notation. Person what? What? Arrow? No. You're thinking of the arrow functions, but no. So remember before I said in order to get like this one here, name, I could say name, get Bob. I don't want Bob, I want Georgian College, which is one level deeper. So how do you think I can get Georgian College? Person what? So inside this one would be what? Inside this would be what? Bob? Good. And then, so that only gets me this. How do I get Georgian College now? Using array notation. Maybe another brackets, and then yeah. So you can obviously, not only can I get, but I can set stuff. So if I want to change the name, right, I could just say person.name, and that by itself will give me Bob. But if I say equals, something else, and now if I say person, well, that property has changed. So that's how to set something. That. What did I say here in So notice this is a const. When I defined it, const person equals. What does const mean again? It means the value is unchangeable. Yet, I just changed name to Charlie. Why? Why can I do that? And I explained this before. So what does const really mean? So reminder, const, if I said const, a equals 32, and then later if I say a equals 3, 2, whatever, I can't do it because I can't change the value of a. But that's because we're dealing with this type, which is just a number. It's a primitive data type. Same thing for a string. If I said const b equals hi, I cannot later say b equals by. That would be a violation because it's const. But if it's const c equals some kind of object like that, okay, so let's say a equals hi, right? I can't later say c equals some other object, even if it's empty. I can't do that because it's a const. But I can still say ca equals by, right? See there, it's changed. So I can change the value properties, but I can't change the actual object. Got that? Also dynamically set both names. Okay, let's try this. I'm going to add a couple of elements here. Let's say just before the paragraph, let's add a text box, call it hobby. And whenever the user types in their hobby there and clicks the following button, it'll be, whatever is typed there will be added to the interests. So let's refresh. So the goal is I want whatever's typed in here, as soon as you click on that button, it'll be added to the person interests. It'll be added to this array. Okay? I'll give you a few minutes to figure that out. I'm going to hand pick someone to tell me the answer. Okay, so try that. Try that out for a couple minutes, and I'll ask someone to give me the answer. So how would you do that? Number one, you'd have to get a document query selector for this button so that when it's clicked, it'll do something. That's number one. Number two, you'll obviously have to use some kind of input.value for this. So you'll have to get a query selector for this, get this .value to get whatever was typed. Then whatever is typed, you have to push it to this array. So whatever this array is, which is person.interest, you'll have to push it in. Okay, so by the end of the day, once you click on this, and then I say person interest, it should be added. So try that out, and we'll take it up in a couple minutes. Let's start you off. 10. Obviously, you have to get the button. So I'll say const button equals dot something. So it's ID of submit. So I'll use that. Now, what's next? So I want this to respond to my click. And what should I do? Anyone got it? And even if you don't got it, give me a guess. So add event listener. What do you think? Right, Piyush? Good, nice. And then some kind of function. Yeah, okay, so function there. And so now we have to get input value. So let's get that. So const, yeah, hobby equals, what do you think, Piyush? Document dot. Okay, let's look it up. What did I say? ID of hobby. Yeah. Hashtag hobby. Okay. Now we got that input box. How do I get another value? Actually, I can just add it into the array right now. So if I said person.interests right now, push, yeah. And then how do I get the value? So let's see if that works. And a word about this. Before I even test it, I wanted to mention one thing here. Notice I'm using the word person here, but this whole thing is defined inside person. Can you do that in Java? Can you? I don't know, but that seems odd to me, right? It would seem odd, like I'm defining this object, and inside that object, I'm referring to itself. By the way, you can do that in JavaScript, or you can use this. Same thing. Refresh. So now that I refresh, if I look at my person.interests, it should be the same thing as before. If I add, whatever, add. Oh, cannot read properly first time. Oh, what happened? Oh, I can't use this. I have to use this. Oh, forget what I just said. I'll get into the word this in a second. So I just added teaching, hopefully. Let's test it. There it is. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Forget what I was saying about the this. The this was referring to the actual DOM element of the button that was clicked. I'm going to get into that in 1 second. What was the question? No, just a comment? Okay. Yes. Okay, yeah. Check this out for a second. So remember how I said before that if you have an object I've defined one object here, and notice I'm using this. So this would refer to the actual this object. Okay, so when it says this dot name, it's actually looking for this. So it should print. So I could test that if I could say person1 dot. Right now, remember how I said before is whenever you're thinking about objects like this, and you're having functions in objects, one way to think about it is on the left-hand side, you got the name, which is greet, colon, function, and then on the right-hand side, you got the actual function. What if I had this? So in addition to my const person1, okay, let me just refresh that. In addition to that, I also have this. This will be a little bit of a, we'll see. Okay, here's the thing. So for this person 2's greet, I'm referring to person 1's greet. Question I have for you, what if I said person 2 dot greet parentheses to run it? What is it going to say? My name is Jordan. Okay, show of hands who thinks my name is Jordan? Who thinks mine is Kawhi? Person 2 dot greet parentheses. My name is Jordan. Does that make sense? For those of you who said the opposite, this is what's happening. And this is why I prefaced it by saying, think of the left-hand side as just a pointer to the right-hand side. So this now is just another pointer to the same exact function. Okay, so greet is this, but at runtime, not at runtime, at the very time it's being run, this has now changed to this object, right? Because this is now inside here. Because this function is now inside here, so to speak. One way to think about it, right? So this has changed to this person 2 object, not the person 1 object. So I just wanted to keep that in mind and want to show you that. Okay, because I know some of you might be thinking it's Kawaii because, yeah, but wait a minute, this function is inside the Kawaii object, but you're still thinking like Java. You're still thinking like at compile time, but JavaScript is runtime. Yeah, JavaScript is still compiled like just before it's run, but whenever you're dealing with language that are dealing with runtime, dynamic environments, this kind of changes. So just keep that in mind. Okay. What else did I want to say? Step 11b, call up both person in the console to see how this is specific to other. Why would I say that? Words. So, okay, no, I think that was it. That's all I want to say for that. Let me, oh, right. One more thing. Understanding this. I gave this as a link in the pre-class announcement. So we're going to play Kahoot after this. So the whole concept of this in JavaScript confuses me still. And it's a common point of confusion. So there's only four rules how this works. Okay. The first one is when you have an object like this. So here's an object called bird. Rule number one is if the function, so that's talking about this function, function is part of an object, which it is, part of the bird object, then this references the object. So notice here in this function, the word this is inside this function and it's inside this object. Therefore, the word this will, when I call it .print this, it'll give me the object. Okay, that's rule number one. Rule number two, however, if the function is just a regular function like this, right? There's no visible object. Then the word this references the global environment. In our case, because it's in the browser, it'll be what? What's the global called? Window, right? So that's why if I run this bird, it'll say window. Okay, that's rule number two. However, here's actually this is a sub rule. However, if your function, which is within an object, uses a callback function. So here, for example, we're using for each. For each uses a callback function, and the rule is this in the callback function references the global object, which again is window. So notice here in their output, it says undefined, 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 because it's trying to print this dot bird name, which you can then mentally substitute. Okay, well, what is this? It's window. Is there such thing as window dot bird name? No, therefore it gives undefined. There's a solution for this, by the way. And this is new in ES6, and this is where the arrow functions come in. If the code had said, if this code right here was using an arrow function, so if I took away the word function and had just the word sound followed by the big fat arrow in there, then this would work. This would actually work. Actually, does it say here? Oh, it doesn't say that. Oh yeah, right there. Yeah, there's for rule number 4. So we'll get to that in a second. Rule number 3, if the function is called using the new keyword. So here, we're saying new bird. So if this is just a regular function. What new does is, in JavaScript, new does 3 things. Number 1, it creates an empty object. Number 2, it assigns the keyword this to that empty object. Number 3, it returns that object. It returns this. So here, when you say new bird, it creates an empty object. And that's why when you say console log this, it's just an empty object, which is why this is outputs. And then you say this dot name equals something, and then you console log it again. Now it has something. Okay? And then it returns it at the end. So imagine there's like a return this. That's what new does. And then finally, if this is used in an arrow function, then the value is inherited from its enclosing scope. So what that means is before, when this was a regular function, this was referring to window, and that's why it gave you undefined, undefined, undefined before. But now because we're using an arrow function, it sort of inherits whatever was around this area. So so that's why it works, kind of thing. Okay. So I'm going to reinforce this through Kahoot. So hopefully, let's refresh this. Hopefully this still works, because it is important. So go ahead and log in with kahoot.it 12604. And where's the... One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. All right. All right. Okay, cool. Let's start. So this is reinforcing what we just learned about this. Good. Most of you chose the correct answer. Let's try the next one. Cart. Who's Cart? Nice. Avi. Who's Avi? Yeah. Super. Okay. Nice. Also be correct. Chose the correct answer because that function was not attached to an object. Good. Relate. Relate. Nice. Of course. I keep on forgetting. All right. What is the output in the console? So this is a callback function, but it's not using an arrow function. So it's referring to global, but the global doesn't know. Window dot whatever it was doesn't know, right? That's why it's undefined. Good. Nice. Apple dance. Nice. Same exact thing using an arrow function. Good. All right. Because it's using an arrow function, it's now getting the appropriate this that you expected. Final question. I've given you two. If you chose either this one, you're right. If you chose either this one, you're right too. And this is where the keyword new comes in. So let me prove this green one to you. Okay. Let's just go to the console for a second. So if I said, oh man, that's crazy. The winner is first. Connor, Cart, Appleton, all you three get a sticker. Give me 1 second first. So if I said, what was it? Function, what is this? And we had, what was it now? What did I have there? I totally forget. Oops. I want to edit this one. Give me that one. So I said new, what is this? Notice what just happened. So this is the result of the first console log, which is an empty, because again, the keyword new creates an empty object. So when I said console log this, it just console logs an empty object. After I filled this object with something, and then console log again, that's the result of this line. But remember, the new also returns, which is the result of this line. And that's why there's a little arrow here, which then indicates this is a return value. Okay. So that is that. I think that's all I have to say about that. And so let's see, 153. Okay. Let me just see. I feel like we should take a break, but let me just see what's happening on this next one. Oop. What did I have on that one? Let me just see. Oop. Was this so? Yeah, let's take a break. Yeah, let's take a break. All right, so this is the deal. We're going to move into classroom. What was it? A326 now. Okay.
Ask you a question?
Yes.
Is there a PowerPoint remote up there?
Oh.
The last time I taught in this class,
PowerPoint.
No,
There's empty glasses.
since before reading week.
I've never seen it before reading week. Okay. Yeah, so what's gonna happen is we're gonna now take a break and we're gonna move all our stuff to K326, and that'll be a nicer room for all of us. Cool? Let's take a break. Meet you up there.